Welcome to another edition of the Jungle Juice podcast. Sam Gormley, and he's back. Mick Nelson is back today, joining us again. Mick, welcome back to the pod.
Happy to be back, Sam. For those of you that don't know, I was out last week. I had to take an exam for my profession, and now I'm back. So
I want to make sure, too, that we thank our good friend Alex Schubert for filling in for you last week. We answered a lot of big questions about the offseason. And I know Alex wants to come back, so at some point, I'm sure we will bring him back to break down everything that we need.
For sure. He did really well. So thanks for filling in, Alex. You were great, and hopefully we'll get to see you back here soon. We see quite a bit of him too.
Yeah, and it's weird because Alex is one of our friends that we have that has season tickets. And it's really funny because we go, a period of about 3 or 4 months where we see him, 8 or 9 times. And then it's funny because it's like, okay, we'll see you. And we've been really bad about keeping up with him, about going to a Reds game or getting dinner or something like that. And so because of that, it's always been one of these things that it's like, okay, we'll see you in August. Like, we'll see you at the next preseason game. So hopefully we'll do a better job at that this year. It's just kind of funny, those people that you tailgate with or you have season tickets next to that, are your friends for a couple of months, then you kind of forget about them again until August or September.
Yeah. We'll try not to do that this year.
Coming up on the show today, we are going to break down the Bengals offense. And it's perfect timing that they have a new leader now, technically, of this offense. We'll tell you who that is. We'll talk about that. Somebody leaves, somebody's promoted to take that job, as we've talked a lot about and predicted. We will break that down. We're going to go position by position on that Bengals offense. What did we like? What didn't we like? Who are the players that are free agents? Should they bring them back? Should they not? Are there any potential cut candidates on this Bengals offense? It's going to be an offensive kind of show. We'll talk about the Jake Browning contract because it's a little weird. Plenty to discuss on today's show. Remember that you can follow us on our social media channels. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitter. Just look for us, Jungle Juice Podcast, on there. We're also on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, Spotify, iTunes, and so on. Mick, I know I brought our Country of the Week last week with Alex, and are you ready for this week's Country of the Week?
Sure.
To who listened to last week's episode of the podcast, and it just kind of makes sense that Alex Schubert fills in, and we immediately get Poland, Russia.
Really?
Yes. So I guess, is Schubert Russian? It wouldn't shock me. I don't know.
But yes, he's kind of pasty. So
yeah. It wouldn't necessarily surprise me, but yes, so we had our listener in Russia. I don't know any Russian. Our good friend Leroy is learning Russian, so I probably could have asked him to teach me something in Russian in the meantime, to where I could have, been all fancy and said something Russian, but I don't. So thank you for listening. How about we just dive into some of the news of the week? And it really saddles around. First off, it happened, I guess, late Monday evening. It was announced that Brian Callahan was going to be leaving the Bengals to be the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Mick, what was your first reaction to that?
Well-deserved by Coach Callahan. Has been, a steady presence in the locker room and on the coaching staff for the past 5 years. He's been around the league for quite a while. I think he kind of started coaching as soon as he, became eligible or became able to coach. So you've seen him work with a lot of good quarterbacks. He worked with Peyton Manning for a while in Denver, worked with Matthew Stafford for a few seasons, and obviously has helped develop Joe Burrow. So well-deserved by Coach Callahan, wishing him nothing but the best in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think it's a good hire for Tennessee. Tennessee's, you could tell that they have a young quarterback who has shown a lot of promise, with Will Levis. So it made a lot of sense that they would potentially want to look and find an offensive-minded head coach. And what's best, though, too, is that one of Tennessee's biggest weaknesses over these past couple of seasons has been their offensive line, similar to the Bengals in that realm. And Brian Callahan's father might be the best offensive line coach in the NFL, and so he probably, that could have been in the works too, where Bill Callahan could potentially follow him to Tennessee and become, something along the lines of that, whether it's offensive line coach, assistant head coach, or something to jump in and do that. But I think that almost is an underrated aspect that the Browns then lose, a key coach on their staff. Now, again, that's nothing official. That's more us just predicting and reading in between the lines and so on. But I think it could be important.
Yeah, well, so I don't think the Titans can just poach Bill Callahan to be the offensive line coach in Tennessee, or that the Titans can poach Bill Callahan to become the offensive line coach. Like, there had to have to be some type of promotion. Now, does Brian make Bill the offensive coordinator in Tennessee? Maybe that's
there are ways to work around that now. Like, he can be the assistant head coach or things like that.
Or he might already be the run game coordinator in Cleveland. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's definitely when Bill Callahan's contract expires. I mean, that's definitely a real possibility. He could come to Tennessee and coach under his son.
And then immediately it opened up the offensive coordinator position for the Bengals. And as we touched on last week, Dan Pitcher, their quarterback coach, was going on interviews left and right. He interviewed with multiple teams. I know he interviewed with the Saints. He was interviewing with the Raiders, interviewing with a couple of teams. And immediately when Brian Callahan left, you could tell Zach Taylor had one guy that he really had in mind, and that was to promote Dan Pitcher for the quarterback coach. I know he interviewed the Seattle offensive line coach. For being honest, Mick, that was just to solidify the Rooney Rule, which requires that for a coordinator position as of 2021, that the Bengals had to interview one minority candidate for the coordinator position instead of just promoting. So they had to interview somebody like that. They did their interview and then promoted Dan Pitcher earlier today. It's not technically official, but it's been reported. Paul Dehner Jr. from The Athletic confirmed Ian Rappaport's report. Jay Morrison from Pro Football Network did the same. It's pretty much, Mick, been what we had thought for a while, that Dan Pitcher was going to be promoted and be the new offensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep. And I was a little worried. I kind of talked to you about this beforehand. He was interviewing with the Saints, with the Raiders, with the Patriots. All three have defensive head coaches. So I was, kind of worried that Dan Pitcher maybe would want to go to those places and maybe showcase his play calling prowess more than he probably will in Cincinnati. But really glad he's getting retained to be the offensive coordinator here. So, yeah, it's a well-deserved promotion for him.
I really don't think the whole play calling thing in that realm means a whole lot. Because in my eyes, you're looking at a bunch of these coaches that are getting picked as well aren't play callers. How many times has Sean McVay's offensive coordinator been taken? Zach Taylor wasn't a play caller. Kyle Shanahan, how many of his coaches have been taken? So I don't know how much of an impact that has. Because here's the biggest thing, too, is it's like, let's say he goes to New England. He's going to be working with, we'll just say Mac Jones will be the starting quarterback, or Jaden Daniels maybe, or whoever the Patriots decide to take, in that first round early on. Okay, you go to New Orleans, you're working with Derek Carr. Okay. The Raiders, who the heck knows who their quarterback's going to be? Aiden O'Connell or Joe Burrow? To me, it's a pretty easy decision.
Yeah, the personnel is definitely a big, draw factor, for Dan Pitcher to come back. But if we're just, I know you're bringing up McVay coaches. I really can't really, who else other than LaFleur and Zach have gotten a head coaching job?
You have Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell.
Okay, there's a third one. Okay,
and
clone of Zach Taylor, Kevin O'Connell.
Yes. No, it's honestly really funny. Zach Robinson has been getting a lot of offensive coordinator interviews and so on to be that potential of. I think he had some head coaching interviews, and it's. I think, but the Kyle Shanahan works. Mike McDaniel. Heck,
Kyle Shanahan thing is legit. That's a legit. Those guys weren't really calling plays there, so I'll give you that. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that if it goes really well, and it's kind of a big risk too, because if it goes really well, you can become a head coach the next season. We're kind of looking at Bobby Slowick, quarterbacks coach with San Fran last year, offensive coordinator with Houston this year. has completely transformed that offense just because of how good of a play caller he is. And I would say he's probably getting a head coaching job. I don't know where yet. I heard the Chargers job just got snatched up by national champion Jim Harbaugh. Congrats to Jim Harbaugh. So
well, I guess we could say national champion for now, right?
It's
until it gets vacated.
It's not getting vacated. No.
I don't know. We're not going to have a college.
Right?
Yeah. What's his name? Connor Stallions or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's a great move, though, in all reality, for the Bengals to promote Dan Pitcher. Because another big thing with this, too, is it's like Joe Burrow likes him. Joe Burrow trusts him.
Yeah.
That means something.
Yeah.
That means something that Burrow has the respect for him. Because I know Bengals fans immediately when it came open, they said, the one name that they kept bringing up, Joe Brady. Joe Brady.
No way Buffalo lets go of Joe Brady.
That's the biggest thing is it's like he is technically, yes, he is an interim offensive coordinator, but he's probably going to get that tag removed. And I mean, I don't know. It's just, and then the other one I know, Cliff Kingsbury. Does that really excite you? Like
Absolutely.
for me, he apparently interviewed with the Steelers today.
I did see Dan Orlovsky in the Who Dey Nation group.
Now, I do like Dan Orlovsky as an announcer.
I do not. I don't like Dan Orlovsky. You should be blackballed from doing anything with football when you run out of the end zone.
You do know that his at one point his Twitter bio was for a long time said end zone should be 11 yards long, which is honestly a really good line.
And also somebody else that was actually decent did that recently. Garoppolo. Did Garoppolo do that?
Or was it Goff?
I think it was Garoppolo.
I don't remember, but I think it's good for this Bengals offense to get some continuity and so on. I know that the rumor is that Brad Cragthorpe, who is the assistant quarterback coach, looks like he will be promoted to the quarterback coach. And this does open up some opportunities, too, for whether Zach Taylor might want to add a position to the staff. Will he give Troy Walters maybe the passing game coordinator position, or just try to add some of that to make those more attractive? Because here's the thing, Brian Callahan, he could poach some of these coaches. He might tell Troy Walters, hey, you want to be my offensive coordinator in Tennessee? And that's the downside to losing some of these coaches and so on. You never know on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe he sees somebody over there that he really likes. James Betcher has kind of been rumored that if Lou Anarumo left, that he would potentially be the Bengals' next defensive coordinator. Maybe Brian Callahan has a good relationship with him. So it'd be interesting to see how some of those and the fallout could come from the Bengals losing their offensive coordinator to be a head coach.
Yeah. Any one of those guys could be poached. Here's my dark horse for Brian Callahan's pick, and I know you love this name as much as I do because I actually wanted him to be. I was kind of wanting him to be the head coach after Marvin, but Jim Bob Cooter has good rapport with Brian Callahan. They worked together in both, in both Denver and Detroit, if I remember correctly. So a lot of rapport there. He obviously has the experience. So I think that's probably. I mean, I have not looked to see who would be the favorite for the OC position, but I would think he would be among them. But yeah. But still, any of these assistants could be poached.
Another name that had been mentioned, and again, we're kind of getting off topic talking about the Titans offensive coordinator, but is Liam Cohen, who's University of Kentucky's offensive coordinator. He is a McVay disciple in that realm, and he was Will Levis's offensive coordinator his best season at the University of Kentucky. So I know that's been some of the connections there. How about the Bengals offense as a whole? Let's talk about this, and let's just go. I think we can go position by position, and then I think we can go with some bigger picture ideas from the offseason or from the offense as a whole. Today's show, we're all about offense. Next week, we're going to go all the way into the defense because the defense, there's a lot of questions on that defense. And we've touched on a lot of these over these past couple of weeks, but I think there's still some interesting things as we talk about as we roll along. The quarterback position. To me, Mick, this is the most solidified room on the team. Joe Burrow is your starting quarterback. Jake Brown is your backup. Sweet.
Yep.
You're awesome. You're set.
Yeah. Not much needs to be said here. if we're doing a quick recap, obviously Burrow was dealing with some health issues. For the majority of the season, first 4 weeks dealing with the calf. Obviously, he was out with the wrist injury. We got to see an extended period of starting from Jake Browning, and Jake Browning did not disappoint by any means. I would say, given a full year, he would be a middle of the road starter. That's kind of how he played this year. Obviously the numbers aren't as great as Burrow's, but still moved the ball down the field when he needed to. Showed some mobility. Showed some grit. He showed a lot of toughness. In the 7 games that he played. So really happy that we're going to retain him for at least one more season, and then I think he's probably gone after that, unless the Bengals want to shelve out, really good QB2 money to Jake Browning.
With this, though, his contract is a little interesting because it's a different level. So what it is, he is an exclusive rights free agent. So what that means is that the Bengals have the choice by the end of the league year, which is, about second week of March, to extend a qualifying offer to Jake Browning, which is a 1-year contract at the league minimum, and it's based on experience level. So it'll be about 1 year, $850,000 or something like that. Jake Browning then has a decision to make. He can either accept it and play on that money, or he cannot play in the NFL next year. That's pretty much the decision. It's like the franchise tag in that realm is the exclusive right for that. Now, Jake Browning's not the only Bengal that has this exclusive right. The other one is Cal Adamitis, the long snapper. Technically, they'll be able to do the same thing for him in that position as well. But that really contract-wise and free agency-wise is the only thing. What will be interesting for me, Mick, is what happens with that practice squad quarterback. Will it be Drew Plitt? Will A.J. McCarron want to stay on as a practice squad quarterback? Like, I'll be interested to see. Could you see a 7th-round pick or a 6th-round pick of a quarterback or something in the NFL draft or an undrafted guy? I think that will be interesting to see if they can try and find the next Jake Browning to be the backup to Joe Burrow if they don't want to pay Jake $5-6 million a year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I haven't really thought that far ahead on the 3rd quarterback, but I'd hope AJ could stay, but I don't know if he's going to necessarily want to. I wonder if he's probably going to go back to the what's the new league called now?
UFL.
The UFL. I wonder if he goes back there, tries to showcase his talent a little more. Definitely worked out well for him last year. So,
or maybe he just says, you know what, I'm 33.
Yeah, time to go home to my to Catherine and
Okay, Musburger, calm down.
Time to go home to Catherine and the kids.
Running back position. Your returners next year for the Cincinnati Bengals. Right now, Joe Mixon. Let's come back to that in a second. Chase Brown, Chris Evans. Technically are all under contract next year for the Bengals. Free agent is Travion Williams. Let's revert back here to Joe Mixon. Cutting Joe Mixon would be $2.75 million in dead cap money and would save $5.75 million. Mick, Alex and I talked about this last week when you weren't here, and we were on different sides of the aisle on that. I am on team shake Joe Mixon's hand, tell him thank you very much. I appreciate all the work you've done, but it's time to move on. Where he said that the Bengals should bring him back. For you, what's the decision?
Yeah, so I'm kind of torn on this. I kind of see both sides of the argument. On one hand, I think Joe Mixon is still a very cost-effective, good value running back in the league, especially after we restructured his deal. And he does offer, something different than what we already have in Chase Brown. So that little Thunder Lightning combo really excites me. Now, I do think if we do move on from him, we are not going to go for a Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs.
Derrick Henry? You're saying we're getting Derrick Henry?
We're not getting a Derrick Henry.
But
if we're
that odd site had the Bengals as the favorite to get Derrick Henry. Did you not see that?
yeah, that odd site's going to lose a lot of money if people actually bet on that. Or well, no, it's actually going to
Well,
win
actually going
money.
to gain a lot of
Yeah,
money. Yeah.
never mind. Yeah, they did that on purpose. Anyways, I don't think I'm torn on this. Like I said, Joe Mixon offers a different skill set from Chase Brown. So, and I think you saw an improvement in the run game once Chase Brown kind of came back. They kind of reverted back to their 2021, 2022 form when Samaj P. Ryan was here, as they both kind of offered different skill sets and different situations and all that. So I'm probably on the side of keeping him because why not? If he's still a decent running back in the league, and
Is he?
and I think he's okay. I think he's middle of the road. There was
Okay.
one
So
stat that really irks me with Joe Mixon. Yards after contact out of qualifying running backs that I see here, which there's about 40 of them. He is ranked third to last in yards after contact per rush.
And see, here's what you just said. I think is a really interesting point, and I think it's why I think to me it makes my point as far as it's time to move on. And listen, I love Joe Mixon. I think he's done good things. He's been a great leader. He's been a good teammate, and so on. Great. But this is a business, and you just mentioned he is a middle of the road running back. Maybe on probably a good day, he is a middle of the road running back in the NFL. Can the Bengals win a Super Bowl with a middle of the road running back?
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that. I think you almost need because like if you're doing a tiered list, like you've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. Let's just say Joe Mixon is a tier 3 running back. I don't know that you need tier 1. I think a tier 2 is kind of that realm of what you necessarily need for that position.
Let's kind of go back each year and see who the running back was on each Super Bowl champion roster, right?
Pacheco last year, I think, is probably tier 2.
The year before, Cam Akers with the Rams, they didn't do anything in the run game and still won the Super Bowl against us, sadly. Bucks, Leonard Fournette wasn't that great of a running back, just had a crazy playoff run. We've seen Joe Mixon have games like this, too. It's not like we haven't seen Joe Mixon have elite games in recent memory.
But it has been very inconsistent, which is what worries me. And look, I'm not looking for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, listen, if they announce tomorrow that the Bengals acquired Christian McCaffrey, I would be doing flips here. But obviously, that's not going to happen.
Chiefs, Super Bowl. What Super Bowl was that? 44? No, 54. 54. One with
Something
the Niners.
Like
who did they have? I think Damian Williams was their marquee back.
I'm just more like to be a consistent. I just don't think the Bengals can win a Super Bowl with Joe Mixon. I think it's time to move on. I think my point that I'm trying to make is I just don't. It's time. I don't think he's worth the money.
Yeah, okay, and that's an argument to be made if you don't think he's worth the money. I just don't know if there's really anybody out there, because they're not going to go more expensive at the position, right? They're not going to go out and get Jacobs, Barkley, Henry.
And nor should they.
No. One name that does intrigue me if they do move on from Joe Mixon that offers a change or offers a different skill set from Chase Brown, and I think we've mentioned this plenty of times, maybe not on the podcast, but off the podcast before, is A.J. Dillon from the Green Bay Packers. Definitely more of a thumper. The dude's got quads, endless quads. It's an all-you-can-eat quad buffet for A.J. Dillon, and he should be really cheap given his inability to stay on the field. So that might be an issue with him. Another name I like is Devin Singletary from Houston. I think the skill set's pretty similar to Chase Brown in that aspect, though. I don't know if you already have Chase Brown, why would you have two of them? I think you need to have a running back that offers a little more that's a little more varied in his skill. So I don't know. I just
think like Mark asked the question here is, move on from Mixon. He says, is Chase Brown now running back 1, or do you get a veteran RB1A? And I think it's more of that latter.
Yeah.
The latter is I think that the Bengals next year, the best way for the Bengals to be successful is that they don't have a starting running back in my eyes. And what I mean by that is it's like, and not, I'm just going to say 50% Chase Brown and 50% someone else. Obviously, it's not going to be, 50-50, but I'm more of just like, we need to split it up because I think that running back position needs explosion. You saw that from Chase Brown. He showed some of that explosion in the screen game. And I'm just not sure. I think that Joe Mixon's explosive days are behind him. And that's what worries me. And that's why I just think it's time to go on. And again, shake his hand, say thank you, Joe. I appreciate what you've done, but it's time.
All right.
Travion Williams is another free agent for the Bengals. He is an actual free agent. Bringing him back?
I don't think so. I mean, he already lost his kick returning duties to Chase Brown. Now, do they go back to Travion because Chase's his role in the offense is a lot more, and you don't want to put him at risk returning kicks? That's potentially a move that they could do.
Travion is a decent blocker too in the backfield.
He's a really good pass blocker. Yeah, no, I think I wouldn't be against bringing him back. I think that
he's cheap too. It's not like
he's cheap.
What, $2 million maybe? Like,
yeah,
it's
just don't have him be running back number. Don't have him be RB2. That's
yeah. But if Travion Williams is your RB3 or 4,
I'd be ecstatic. Yeah,
I think that's a pretty solid move. As a whole, though, running backs, I think we've pretty much cleared it. That I think we saw some stuff from Chase Brown, and I'm really excited to see more of what he can bring to the offense because really we didn't ever see Chase Brown with Joe Burrow.
No. And if we go back to that yards after contact thing, Chase Brown, if he were a qualifying running back, he would have been number 3. He would have been, I believe, top 10 in the league in yards after contact. So yeah, that's. I think he was. I think it was.
Is that like just on runs, or does that count? Is that all purpose?
It's just on runs. It's not an all-purpose stat. The other thing I kind of want to talk about with Mixon and I think that this cannot be overvalued, but Mixon still has shown
I know where you're headed with this.
Exceptional ability of taking care of the football. He does not fumble the ball. He looks like he may have lost a little bit of explosion, but he's not turning the ball over. At least he's let's see, what did Riley say? Not RB1. I mean, they already have him pretty cheap, right? I mean, they're paying him $8 million, $8 million cap hit, I guess. So I don't know.
It is interesting, though. You mentioned it. I think the stat that I heard yesterday, I think I was listening to Dave Lapham. He interviewed Zach Taylor. I was listening to that yesterday, and I think Dave Lapham said that the stat is that the Bengals fumbled the ball 10 times last season and lost 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's good coaching. It's good coaching. It's good people in the locker room that know how to take care of the football.
And you're right on Joe Mixon. That's the one thing I think. What has he lost? 1 fumble in his career?
That is the one. Yeah, I think it's 1 or 2. I think we can count it on one hand for sure. And he's been in the league for
7, 8 years.
Yeah, this was his 7th year in the league. So, I mean, the ball security cannot be undervalued. It's a big deal, especially when we've seen running backs in Bengals history that have shown no ability to handle the football or take care of the football.
You're not going there right now, are you?
Especially with 2 minutes to go in a playoff game.
We were having a happy time. Alex Schubert's gonna pop in here now, and he's gonna start bringing his Jeremy Hill love.
Oh God,
this
no,
comment section.
No,
if he does, Mick, I'm making an executive decision that he will get booted from the comment section that day. Agreed?
Oh yeah, there's no argument that can be made for Jeremy Hill.
Let's go wide receivers. Returners next year for the Bengals on offense for the wide receiver position. Jamar Chase. Let's come back to him here in a second because there's some interesting things this offseason for Jamar. Andre Yoshivas, Trenton Irwin, Charlie Jones. Those 3 are probably, I think if those are your 4, 5, and 6 wide receivers next year, you're probably feeling pretty decent.
Isn't Irwin a free agent?
I don't believe so, from what I was
thought
able
I
to
had
do
him
on
marked
my.
as a free agent on here. Let me take a look.
Well, while
here.
you look at that, let's go back to Jamar Chase here. Jamar Chase is extension eligible for the first time this offseason. Now, the Bengals can offer him the 5th-year option. Now, that is probably, there's no can to that. It will be the Bengals will offer him the 5th-year option, which is projected to be $21.6 million for him in 2025 would be his contract, which honestly, for Jamar Chase, that's a bargain.
Yeah,
It'll be a no decision for him.
$6 million ever spent. Back to Trenton Irwin. He is a free agent this year.
Interesting.
And here's
I saw that he wasn't a free agent until next year. That's interesting.
Here's the caveat to this. He's 29 years old.
But here's the biggest thing. Here's the biggest thing with Trenton Irwin as well is Burrow loves him and Burrow trusts him. And that's huge.
I'd bring him back for the cheap. Right now, I think OTC has him valued at probably $2 million.
If that, yeah, he's going to be super cheap.
Yeah, I mean, no, I would love to have Trenton Irwin back, even though he is hitting the age 30 season. If you could bring him back for 2 years, $5 million, or 2 years, $4 million, I would sign up for that every day of the week.
And I would assume he would probably be one of those guys too that would be more than willing to come a little bit cheaper, because it's not like anybody's going to be paying him insane amounts of money, because he's very much he is a wide receiver 4 at the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's not if he is a fill-in starter, like you need him for 2 or 3 games, you're good. He's not a starter every day in the NFL. Now, and I love Trenton Irwin. He's done great things and he's filled in and done great things, but he's not a guy that you probably want to trust long term. Let's talk Jamar Chase extension. For me though, Mick, I don't think that there will be an extension done this offseason for Jamar Chase. 1. And 2, I don't think there's any shot there's an extension done until Justin Jefferson gets his done.
Yeah, I think that they're going to play the waiting game amongst each other here. Now, I think if Jay Jettis doesn't get it done like early, we could see a Jamar Chase extension this offseason. But they do have other priorities, though, that they need to figure out now. They're going to have to figure out nose tackle. We don't know what's going to happen with DJ Reader. They're probably going to have to add another corner. They might look at safety, and then, they could be looking at a slot wide receiver in free agency as well. I mean, they've got other positions they probably need to fill first, but I think the Jamar extension should be a fairly high priority, at least in training camp, maybe, if not, maybe this offseason.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see what they end up doing on that realm with it. Jaden writes in and says, fire the O-line coach. We'll talk about the offensive line here in just a few minutes, Jaden, when we talk about that and break that part down. Let's go to the offense, the wide receiver free agents. We touched on Trenton Irwin. There's 2 big ones. First one for both of these, it's important to mention because technically, Mick, they can franchise tag Tyler Boyd. Technically, they can. They're not going to franchise tag Tyler Boyd, but technically they can. $21.7 million will be the franchise tag. Spot Track, which is a good. I mean, it's not a perfect prediction on contracts, but for both of these guys, for extensions, for T. Higgins, 4 years, $74.4 million is what they're projecting, which would be $18.6 million per year. Tyler Boyd would be 3 years, $26.1 for $8.7 million per. Tell you, the Tyler Boyd, I'm kind of agreeing with Mark. I love Tyler Boyd. I just don't see a spot for him financially on this team next season. I just think that position needs to be younger.
Yeah, I think it needs to be younger, and there are 2 names that I will throw at you right now that I think could easily fill that void in the slot that are going to be free agents and are younger.
Kadarius Toney?
No, but KJ Osborne from the Vikings. Now, I don't know if he's as good as Boyd, but definitely younger, quicker, has had success in the league. And then here's my personal favorite, he didn't have a very good year this year, but I think could bounce back with Joe Burrow, and that's Darnell Mooney from the Chicago Bears. We've seen him pretty much be the wide receiver one in Chicago for a couple of years. I think I just really like the way he plays football. He just plays very fast. He's got a quick twitch to him. I think he's really good at the catch point for a small guy. Really good at the catch point. And then both of those guys primarily line up in the slot. So I think that there are options out there in free agency to fill this slot receiver void rather than re-signing Tyler Boyd, who clearly lost a step in 2023.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I love Tyler Boyd. He's done great things, but it's just time to move on. Now, that T. Higgins contract that it mentioned here for extension, 4 years, 74.4 for 18.6 mil per. That somewhat intrigues me.
It intrigues me, but given who his agent is, I don't think that he would try to go for that at all. He's going to go for wide receiver one money. He's going to go for at least 20 or probably at least 22 a mil a year. And I do not think the Bengals should re-sign him for that.
Yes, no, I think, to me, you've got multiple options for the Bengals this season for T. Higgins. I think you can franchise tag, you can give him an extension. Theoretically, you can let him walk, which would probably get you a third-round pick compensatory, more than likely, unless the Bengals sign a high-level free agent similar to Orlando Brown Jr., which canceled out the Jesse Bates compensatory selection. So you would probably get a higher pick for that, maybe fourth for T. Higgins. And then you can also tag and trade. For me, I know we've talked about this ad nauseum over these last couple of weeks. I think the tag number of 21.7 is going to happen. I would be surprised if it doesn't.
I don't know, just given all the other spots they have to fill. And then you have 2022 just eaten up, or 22 million of cap being eaten up just by one guy that you're not even going to keep for more than one season. I mean, yeah, that 22 frees up in 2025, I guess, but I don't know. I'm kind of erring on the side of spend that money elsewhere. There's a lot of good free agents out here, and rebuild the defense or rebuild some key positions on the defense. Maybe find a new slot receiver. Maybe find a running back. I just don't know if I would want to tag T, especially given how this year kind of panned out for him.
One of the big things that stands out, though, is, Joe Burrow talked at the end of the offseason, and they asked him something along the lines of, do you expect T. Higgins back? And he said, yes, I expect T. Higgins back. Now, listen, I get it. I mean, obviously, it's not like he's going to be like, nope, I hope T's gone. But it was a resounding endorsement from the most important person in the Bengals organization right now.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean nothing.
No, it doesn't. And because Joe easily could not, he wouldn't say, I don't want T back, but he obviously could have said, like, well, we'll see.
It's a business. It's a business. We understand that. Or something. He could have.
Yeah.
Joe is very political.
Yes. So, yeah, I do agree that is a resounding endorsement. I just don't want him. I don't want the Bengals signing him for wide receiver one money.
No.
I think that would be very detrimental to the rest of the roster.
To me, like, if they announced that extension tomorrow and they said T. Higgins has been re-signed 4 years, 74.4 for 18.6 mil, to me, that would be the mark where I'd be like, yes, okay, I'm fine with that. Anything more, I think, is where we're getting into the, I'm going to get a little worried about it.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think if they announce that deal tomorrow, I think I would be more than happy with it.
As long as they find a way to extend Jamar, I really don't care. Sorry to say this. I'd be okay with letting T walk. I'd be okay with extending him as long as it's not for a crazy amount of money. That 18 mil is kind of sounds like a sweet spot right there. I just don't see his agent going for that.
No, I don't either. Let's talk tight end. You ready for the list of returners at tight end, Mick? Are you ready for it here? Okay, let's move on to the free agents because we just mentioned all the returners.
So
I feel bad for James Casey, the tight ends coach. He's pretty much the Will Smith, walking into his room being like, well, it's just me now.
yeah,
I don't even think he's got a practice squad tight end.
he doesn't.
He's got nobody.
He's got nobody there. Now the good news is that they probably they should. I don't know if they will or how likely it is, but I think Drew Sample and Tanner Hudson could come back. I think they're both low cost and provide a lot of value. With that being said, this tight end free agency class is kind of bare.
You're no love for Irv Smith coming back?
No.
Really? I thought you were a big Irv Smith guy, right? I mean, what was your favorite Irv Smith moment as a Bengal? See, look, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one wondering.
Definitely not that fumble against San Fran.
What about his touchdown against the Bills? Yeah,
the Bills.
It was.
That was a good moment. Can
you name a second one?
No, I don't think. Actually, did he score? I think he did score a second one. He scored one against the Texans.
He might have. Now I'm looking up his stats this year of just, I don't even know how many catches yet. Okay. I have not looked. We're going to do this. I'm going to say he had, off the top of my head, did he even have 20 catches?
No, I'd say he had like 16 or 17.
I was going to say 17. So let's look. I'm gonna let it load over here. 18 catches, 1 touchdown. His fantasy point total 15.5 all season. He had 18 catches for 115 yards. He only had 2 catches from December on.
So he's not coming back. There are a couple names in free agency that do intrigue me. I've talked about this with you before. I really like Colby Parkinson out of Seattle. I think that the dude's insanely tall. He's 6'7", moves really well given his size. I think him and Burrow would click really well. Now the only issue is that the Bengals are going to have to pay him more than whatever they had to pay Irv Smith, which was probably nothing. But they signed him for like $2 million, $3 million.
Too much.
$2 million too much. Right now, I think Spot Rack has Colby Parkinson valued at $6 million a year. So yeah, they're going to have to shelve out a little more investment at the tight end. But I think we saw this season what spending the bare minimum of tight end could do.
Listen, Joe Burrow made CJ Uzomah and Hayden Hurst look like good tight ends. And listen, I'm not by no means trying to throw slander towards those two guys, but those guys are not upper tier tight ends. They're not. They're mid-tier at best.
It's possible Hayden Hurst could get cut from Carolina and he could sign back here on the cheap.
And you also got to wonder too about Hayden Hurst's health.
Yeah. I mean, the dude's older. He's in his mid-30s, I think.
Well, then he had the whole concussion and had the amnesia with it and all that or something, wasn't it? Or some weird.
He did have a weird concussion story. I don't really remember too much about it, but we got a run blocking tight end if he resigns. Mark Drew Sample hopefully would.
I know you weren't here last week, but I asked the question to Alex Mick was who is the most important Bengals free agent to re-sign other than the obvious. So not counting your big 6. And to me, it was Drew Sample. Kind of in that next tier down. I think he's really important for the Bengals to re-sign because I think he had a really good season.
I'm going to go with he's an exclusive rights free agent. I'm going to go with Cal Adamitis.
Listen.
He needs to come back. He's a good long snapper. He did good.
Luckily he really doesn't have much of a choice to come back because they're going to bring him back because nobody knows who he is. And that's, as a long snapper, the best thing that a long snapper can have is when nobody knows who he is.
Yeah. Yep. I think I could agree with that statement for sure.
Mitchell Wilcox is the other tight end and Tanner Hudson are the other two that we didn't really mention.
Chance you probably see Mitchell Wilcox back too. It seems like we can get the guy on the cheap.
Yeah, and I think Tanner Hudson probably in that same realm, that he's probably going to be fairly cheap, that he'd be a body. To me, I think you've got your your tight end 2, 3, and 4.
You got to go and find number 1. Yeah,
and that question is do you get a guy like who you mentioned, Parkinson, or do you? My dream is Brock Bowers. He's not going to be there at 18.
No.
But if he's there at 18, Duke Tobin better make the phone call. Like, I get it that the Bengals need offensive line, they need defensive line help, but my goodness, Brock Bowers with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins next season, like, run it back, let's roll. Who the heck's stopping them?
Now, there are other tight ends in the mid-rounds they could look at. Jatavion Sanders from Texas. Is, I think, a second-round guy. Cade Stover from Ohio State. Any other names?
Off the top of my head, I haven't. It's still we're, in fact, 3 months today. Is the draft on the 24th? Is that when it starts? Now I'm thinking about it. It might be 3 months today. Now that I'm looking at it, I got to go dive into this. No, 25th. So tomorrow is 3 months until the draft. Tomorrow. 3 months. So I think we're a little less than 100 days until the Bengals will be on the clock. Close. Well, I guess not quite this time. It'll be in about an hour. I guess probably, luckily we don't have to stay up until like midnight like we have the past couple of years. That's been a little weird waiting for the Bengals to pick because they've had to pick towards the end of the first round.
Yep. Yeah. We'll see it probably around 10:30. Do you think 10:30, 11 o'clock? They start to just fly off the board right after.
They do.
15, I think.
I think it's going to be really interesting too with trades and so on. Like, what could we see? Because it's an interesting quarterback draft, and obviously we'll talk more about the draft in April just because there's a lot to it. It's an interesting quarterback draft, though, which to me is going to be interesting to see how it goes. How about everybody's favorite part to talk about with the offense, the offensive line?
The
offensive line. So returners next year. These are the guys that are under contract. These are under contract next year. Orlando Brown Jr., Cordell Volson, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, Jackson Carman, Trey Hill. They're under contract. Oh, and then Deontay Smith. I forgot him on there. Can't forget about Deontay Smith. Those guys are under contract next year. Free agents, Jonah Williams, Max Sharping are the free agents on that offensive line. And Cody Ford on that line as well. Now, when we're talking about Jonah Williams, again, technically, they can franchise tag him. Technically, they can. And technically, they could franchise tag Cody Ford or Max Sharping if they wanted to. I mean, technically, they can. They would only just have to pay them $21.7 million per.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Can you imagine if they announced tomorrow the Bengals franchise tag Max Sharping? Or Cody Ford. We love his fiance on TikTok so much.
Everybody would be asking Max Sharping, like, what dirt did you find on the Brown family?
Yeah. Beyond that, like, my goodness. Cody Ford, we just love your fiance so much on TikTok that we want to keep her around, so we're willing to pay you $22 million a year.
I think my wife would sign up for that. I think I am on the side of keeping both of them back or bringing both of them back, if the situation's right for all parties involved. Just because they both provide really good depth on the line. Neither of them are starters, but we've seen Sharping come in when he's needed. Cody Ford's been the 6th offensive lineman this year. And then obviously Cody Ford's got a TikTok star for a wife.
I think we're starting the trend now. Hashtag franchise Cody Ford. Franchise Ford. There we go. Hashtag franchise Ford. We're going to start it right now. It is interesting though, Mick. Now, I don't expect this deal to be accurate, but SpotTrack had Jonah Williams 4 years, $43.4 million for $10.8 million per.
I don't think that's right. Is
that's
really
what they
what
had it when I looked at it today, and to me, that's very low.
I thought I saw something like $15 million a year.
That's what I'd seen earlier, and this was as of 3:00 this afternoon or whenever it was that I was looking at it. But I found it very interesting, and I'm like, if they could get Jonah Williams for that cheap, I'd be willing to do that. Because I think you look at this offensive line next year, your left tackle, your center, and your right guard, I think, are all coming back. I know, Mick, you had mentioned Ted Karras. Technically, they can cut him. They'd have $1 million in dead cap and would save $6.4 million against the cap. The only part that worries me there is just the lack of any semblance of depth on the offensive line at center. I know you had mentioned Cushenberry and so on. We can talk about that more as free agency comes along. Left guard, to me, is probably solidified as well. Cordell Volson played a lot better as the season went along, but right tackle is a huge hole.
Yeah. And we have a really good draft class coming up at right tackle as well. Amarius Mims is somebody I constantly mock to the Bengals, and I do mock drafts, pretty often. You got other guys. You got Talise Fuaga from
Oregon
State.
J.C. Latham.
J.C. Latham from Alabama, which I know Alex loves. Yeah, so you got 3 big names right there.
And the best part about this, too, is it hits the Bengals the right spot to these right tackles. They're not going to have to reach to get any of these guys.
No, they're not.
And even I've seen the guy from Penn State. I've seen him drop in some recent mocks. I think Dane Brugler had him as like 12th or 13th in his most recent mock draft, which to me was interesting because you will see an offensive lineman pretty much every year. One big offensive lineman will drop a little bit more than people thought. Now, is it going to be that guy whose name I cannot pronounce?
Olu Fashanu.
There you go. Look at him go. The dude from Yale.
Kieran Agent, I don't know. Kieran from Yale.
So just because we have a guy from Princeton, now we need somebody from Yale? Are we going to have like a fight, Ivy League fight?
Yeah.
Get Fitzpatrick.
So Olu Fashanu, I don't think it's a matter of his skill that's causing him to drop, but I think it's just that there are skill position players that are being mocked ahead of him. I mean, we're looking at right now, we're looking at, at least 3 quarterbacks in Williams, May, and Jaden Daniels. You're looking at a ton of wide receivers. I mean, I think I personally, I think Harrison's going to go number 1 if Chicago stays in that number 1 pick. And you're going to have Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze are probably all going to be top 10 picks. You're
going to have the guys that there will be somebody who sneaks into that top 10. There will be those guys who right now are in the 20 to 30 range who test out of the waters.
I think Jerzon Newton might
from Illinois.
Yeah.
The guy from Texas. The interior guy from Texas.
Tavondre
He's been rising. Murphy.
I don't think Byron Murphy should be a top 10 pick either, but he's
been rising a lot.
Did he have a good Senior Bowl? Is that what's driving it? Do you know? Or
I don't think the Senior Bowl hasn't even happened. I don't think the Senior Bowl is
I wonder what's just randomly.
Isn't the Senior Bowl next week?
I thought it was the week after.
The 3rd of February. So it's next week.
Oh yeah, it's always the week in between the conference championships and the Super Bowl.
It's the day before the Pro Bowl games.
Yay!
Yay! Everyone's excited for the Pro Bowl games. Yay! What did the Bengals do at right tackle, though, Mick?
I think they draft a guy in the 1st round. I don't see them re-signing Jonah. I just looked at Mike McGlinchey's contract he signed last offseason. I think that's a pretty good comparison to Jonah. McGlinchey signed for $15 million a year last year. So yeah, I don't think Jonah is going to be signing around the 10, 11 mil range. I think he's going to probably want McGlinchey money and McFlinchy.
And the biggest thing too with Jonah is I don't know that Jonah wants to come back.
I don't think he does either. If we're going to be honest here, I don't think he does.
I mean, he met some weird guy in a Target one day, and it's gone downhill from there.
For those of you that don't know, I met Jonah at Target once. Really nice, down-to-earth guy. Really, really happy to meet him. I don't know if he was happy to meet me or not, but
you did take an awkward selfie with him, didn't you?
I don't think it was awkward. I thought it looked all right.
I wish I had it to pull up. I remember you just, I think, randomly sent me the selfie with you and Jonah Williams. I was like, oh, that's Jonah Williams.
I think I've got a picture in the Who Dey Nation group. Maybe we'll share it next week or whenever we do an in memoriam for him for when he signs elsewhere.
It might be in the old Houday Nation group, though.
Oh,
R.I.P.
son of a gun, it is.
R.I.P. It's along with T Tuesday as well. I think that right tackle position, if you know, you know. The right tackle position, though, I agree. What I would be interesting is, the people want to see it. They want to see it, Mick.
Well, it's on my. It might be on my Snapchat actually.
I was gonna say, if you send it to me, I can then put it onto the stream. If you can find it in the next couple of minutes. Probably the best way to do it is if you could email it to me. If it's easy for you to do that, since you my email, or you can text it to me. I guess we can do it that way.
Oh, hey, I found it.
Oh, look at that.
This?
It'll be interesting though. Is would this be one of those positions though that the Bengals might sign a guy? And I'm name dropping here, and I know you're going to roll your eyes at this, but do they even sign a guy like this as insurance and a guy like George Fant? Someone in that realm.
You were going to bring up George.
And listen,
Fant.
I know the what, but and listen, I don't necessarily want George Fant to be the starting right tackle, but do they sign someone like that to be an insurance policy? Because what happens if at 18, Fuaga, Latham, and Mims are all gone? Because the draft very well could do that way. Are you going to trust a second or a third round offensive lineman to potentially start in that aspect? I don't know that you're necessarily trusting that. Okay, you've sent me an email.
I don't know. I sent a link to Snapchat. I don't know. It didn't let me.
Oh, it did. Okay, let me figure out how I can. Okay, I'm gonna figure this out while we're talking about it. Because Mick, let's talk about the Frank Pollock situation. It seems like the Bengals are bringing him back.
Yep, they are.
And how does that make you feel?
Not great. I will say we saw an improvement from the offensive line this year, but still it was disappointing. This offensive line should have been rated at the very least the top half of the league offensive line, and it has not lived up to that bill. Now, it is the best rated offensive line of the Zach Taylor era via PFF. I think they were ranked 22nd this year. I don't think they ranked higher than 26th or 27th in the other 4 years. So, yeah, we saw an improvement, but still disappointing. And I don't think Frank should keep his job. But
I'm intrigued by it is no longer available. What? I'm trying. Oh, nope, here it is. Okay, we're working on it. Now I got to figure out how to actually get this picture to my. Let's see if this will work. I'm working on it here. Nope, that's not going to work. Okay, am I going to have to take like a screenshot of this?
Like a snip?
Okay.
Can you do a snip?
Yep, I got to do this here. I hope this doesn't screw up the... This is great podcasting too, isn't it, Mick? Oh, it's over here in the corner. I'm seeing it now.
Where?
Oh, wait. Nope. Oh, well, I guess... Okay, this is a mess here. This is great podcasting, though. This is the thing we do for the people to make sure that we bring them a picture of you and Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams, though, looks a whole lot more excited to be taking the picture than you do with him, if I'm being honest, now that I've seen the picture again. Okay, I've got it. Let's see if it'll work. Is this not just the greatest podcasting you've ever seen?
Yeah. Where's the picture at, Sam? I sent it.
It's coming. It's coming. We got to find it here. Come on. You should be here. Oh, that's right. It should be over in this aspect, and it's probably there. It is. Okay. We've got it. Let's see if it'll work. I know we're killing all of this time, and we're wasting. And we're already going long. Bang! There it is. The picture of Mick and Jonah Williams
before the man bun.
It was, and before a lot of the tattoos too. I think the tattoos came longer. But he looks a lot happier to be taking the picture. Are you in the kids section?
No, this was at the very front of the store.
Oh, was he shopping in the dollar section? Or was you? Yeah, I was going to say, you look truly unenthused.
I wasn't. I was pretty stoked and had a good conversation with him. He was really great. I think it kind of looked like we could be brothers there, honestly. Kind of look a little similar.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
I don't think we look dissimilar.
No, I mean, you all are both white men with beards.
Yeah, little on the bigger side.
We both did bring up that. I mean, Alex and I talked that we thought you weren't here last week because you were training to be the Bengals' next offensive right tackle.
Yep, that's what I was doing.
You
I am
become the
actually
first.
Devin. I think I'd be better than Devin Cochran or Jackson Kirkland,
So
especially Jackson Kirkland.
It's interesting. So Paul Daner Jr. from The Athletic today released his Choose Your Own Adventure worksheet. So if you subscribe to The Athletic, it's a really cool thing that they go through, and it's a little spreadsheet that he makes, and you can go through and you can pick with like projected numbers to play with a cap and so on. It's a lot of fun. I was playing with it a little bit earlier, but he snuck a little Easter egg in there as the open spot of offensive right tackle 3 or offensive tackle 3. He put Bobby Hart, and you could sign him for $1.
I would pick Bobby Hart over both of those guys.
Invincible, but making the Bengals.
That's a good movie. Really good movie. You want to talk some playoffs,
okay.
some conference championships? You know, and
I think because as a whole, I was going to say as a whole, I think the offense, to me, it's just the what if of Joe Burrow. You know, if he'd have stayed healthy, I think we could have had a lot of it, because in those couple of weeks, you know, you're thinking of 49ers, Buffalo, Houston, in that stretch there where they were healthy, they looked like a really, really good offense.
Okay, Riley, uncalled for. Riley says I can't even play flag QB. That is BS. I was good at flag QB.
You were the backup. You were the backup center on the Randall K. Cooper High School freshman football team. Were you not?
I was the backup center.
So you do have experience on the offensive line.
Starting quarterback of the Theta Chi C team, and the MB team in my sophomore junior year flag football team. Riley was like my tight end or center. Like he played center, but he went out for a route every time. Instead of blocking,
Irv Smith?
I'd run for my life and just run to him. He was like a.
Are you better than Jake Browning?
Who's a really thick tight end? Just like because you've met Riley.
A thick boy.
Jeremy Shockey? No. Who am I thinking of?
Gosh, I'm trying to think here. Riley might be the free agent tight end signing.
It's like if the 6 offensive linemen came out and reported eligible and had a route.
Jake, what was the guy from Oregon who was drafted in the second round?
Jake
Fisher.
Riley there we go. Jake Fisher. That's the best
Jake Fisher.
To describe it.
That's a good one because he would always go out and try and catch passes. I think he caught 1 or 2. There we go. Riley is Jake Fisher. So maybe if you want Jake Fisher as your tight end, Mark, then yes, Riley is going to be the Bengals' next tight end.
Dude, that was such a terrible draft. That was the 2015 draft.
Yeah.
Abwehi and Fisher, look where they're at. Not good.
Ooh. Who are you cheering for in the AFC Championship, Mick?
I'm cheering for the Ravens. And it's not like I have like that much against the Chiefs, but we've seen the Chiefs win plenty. I think Harbaugh definitely deserves a second ring. And Lamar's played really well. That defense is probably the best defense I've seen since 2015 Broncos. I think they're that good. Which yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna go Ravens.
I can't do it. I don't want the Chiefs. I don't think I'm going to cheer.
I just want to watch the game. I mean,
yes.
If I'm honest with you.
I think we both agree that we're both going to pick the Ravens to win.
Yeah, I think the Ravens blow out the Chiefs. I don't think it's going to be close.
But then again, it's so hard to bet against Mahomes. He somehow does it. And the only quarterback that hasn't that has had his number in the playoff, 2 quarterbacks have beaten him in the playoffs. Tom Brady and Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Is Lamar in that category? I think so, probably. But then have you read the stat of the Josh Allen playoff curse? Did you see this earlier today? That every year that Josh Allen has made the playoffs, the team that beat him lost the week after. every single year. So that means that Mahomes
Definitely
is going to
happened
try and
last
break
year.
the Josh Allen curse. Yep. And it happened
Yeah.
the year prior because
AFC
he
Championship
lost to the
game.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
Bengals lost to the Chiefs and so on. So it was just kind of funny looking at that. I do kind of agree with what Mark said. I think the Ravens are the best team right now. On the NFC side, Mick, can the Lions continue the hot stretch? I mean, were the 49ers kind of exposed by the Packers, or was that the fluke that the 49ers needed?
No, I don't think they were exposed by the Packers. I think the Packers were a legitimately good football team that got hot at the right time in the season. And so I still do think the Niners win the game. I don't think it's going to be as much of a nail biter as it was against Green Bay. I think that the Lions match up way better against the Niners match up way better against the Lions. I think the Lions secondary is a big question mark, and I think that the Niners receivers are going to have a field day with them. I'm still rooting for the Lions.
That's the team I'm cheering for. If you tell me I can pick one team to win the Super Bowl, that's the team I want.
Probably the Lions. It was the Bills and the Lions, and or the Lions, kind of 1A, 1B. Now the Bills are out, so definitely a Lions fan for the next couple weeks. But there's a reason why I don't want the Niners in. One, I've already seen a Super Bowl with the Niners and the Chiefs, or the Niners and the Ravens. I hate seeing a new the same matchup in a Super Bowl. I like seeing two new teams or a new matchup. And two, we've seen this all throughout the season, that the colors of the Super Bowl logo coincide with the teams in the Super Bowl. And I really hope I don't see that for a third year in a row, because now I'm going to start
panicking when you see next year's logo.
Thinking things, yes. So I'm really hoping it's not Ravens Niners. I'm hoping it's Ravens Lions, or Chiefs Niners, just for that. Just for that, honestly, or Chiefs Lions.
I agree with you that it'll be Ravens 49ers, though. Those have been the two best teams all season. Pretty consistently. The best players all year have been on that. Lamar, McCaffrey, Purdy, have been on those teams. It's just I think those are the two best teams, so I think that will be your Super Bowl here in Vegas in a couple of weeks.
Lions could be really poetic, though. Like the first game of the season.
I meant to go back and look and see, has that happened?
I don't think that's happened before. There's no way.
Now I got to look here to see on the. I got to Google first game of the NFL season. His NFL kickoff game history. So yeah, because it would have to be a team that would make it to consecutive Super Bowls. Yeah. And so you had last year was Bills, Rams, Cowboys, Bucks, Texans, Chiefs, Packers, Bears, Falcons, Eagles, Chiefs, Patriots, Panthers, Broncos in 2016. That was a rematch of the previous year's Super Bowl.
So you
had correct. Yeah, I'm looking. It is not happened. At least looking, there's been a bunch of conference matchups in here as well. It's not happened since at least 2002 when they started that game. So that would be something that would at least be somewhat interesting to watch as it goes along. But next week on the show, we're gonna switch gears and talk all about the defense, defensive line. There's a lot of questions there. The linebacker core, I think, has some interesting ones too. I think your Logan Wilson is set, but is Jermaine Pratt a cut candidate? That could be a discussion to have. Is BJ Hill a cut candidate on the defensive line? That's a discussion to have. What do they do with DJ Reader? Dax Hill, how much trust is he as the starting safety? That'll be a discussion point for next year. Do they move him to corner? Do the Bengals sign a safety? How does all of that work? That'll be an interesting discussion. We'll also talk a little bit probably about special teams as well. I know that Jaden asked earlier about the punter situation. That'll be a good discussion for us next week as well, talking about, what do the Bengals do with Brad Robbins? Evan McPherson is up for an extension. To me, that's one of the easiest decisions ever, is give the man what he wants. We already mentioned Cal Adamitis. He's probably going to be re-signed as well, but I think there'll be interesting discussions for that as well next week.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Remember to follow us on our social media channels. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We are on Twitter. We're on your favorite podcasting platform. You can go back and listen to the show that way as well. Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, whatever it might be. There's that one French platform, too, that I can never remember the name of. But make sure you go back and listen to us that way as well. Mick, it's been fun, and we'll see you next week for Defensive Breakdown.
Can't wait. Who day, guys?
Who day?